pelvis. Tailbone points up to the ceiling, into the neutral, into an extension. In an articulation of the spine, you essentially have two variations for bridging. With my feet hips distance, I can articulate upward, starting with the tailbone, peeling my lower spine off, rising to the edge of my shoulder blades, squeezing into the glutes. Notice how my rib cage pulls inward. Sometimes you'll see rib cage out, lower spine extended. In proper form, we'll want to tuck that tailbone in just slightly, pull the rib cage back in so there's a long line leading from the base of your neck down to the tailbone, and you articulate back down, upper spine, mid spine, lower back, and tailbone. Second variation for your bridging is a hinge. Your hinge is a flattened spine all the way up and all the way down. Maintaining my flat neutral position, I push downward into the soles of my feet, sending my hips up to the ceiling in one piece, and I lower back down, tapping the tailbone. Exhale on the way up, squeeze. Inhale on the way down to return. Working throughout the back of the body, your glutes and your hamstrings. Take notice of the knees. If the knees are shifting outward, cue them to bring them inward directly in front of the hips. Sometimes clients will squeeze their legs all the way together. You want about 2 to 3 inches of space. If a client does not understand that hips distance position, I would reach and grab a ball and place the ball in between their knees, and that will help as a guidance for them. You can transition your parallel position into a V position, which is a rotation from the hips, the knees, and the ankles. Toes are turned out just slightly towards the corners of your mat, finding that neutral spine to start. Push down into your feet, finding your bridge into a hinge up and a return downward. Maybe you go back into an articulation, peeling off of the mat and rolling back down, scooping into the belly. Another variation, wide external rotation. It's just like that V position, but slightly wider than the hips, sending the hips upward and lowering back down. In any positioning of our bridges, you can add hip pulses, up and down 1 inch. You can add just a hold. You can challenge your clients to take their palms off of the mat, above their shoulders towards the ceiling. If we are in a parallel positioning of our bridge, you can add marches. Marches are only done in a parallel position. My feet are hips distance, my hips are up towards the ceiling, rib cage pulled in, right knee lifts up to a 90-degree angle, pointed toe. Plant the left foot downward, hips stay high, left or right knee pulls upward into 90. Plant the right foot down. This is similar to your knee folds. From the very start, where we had our spine in a neutral position and the knees came up into that 90-degree angle. You can opt for a client to keep their palms down to the mat as they alternate the legs. This will help their pelvis to stay steady. Finding the left leg in a 90-degree angle for a single leg bridge. Keeping the left knee bent, we slowly lower the tailbone downward towards the mat. And we push into our right foot, lifting the hips, squeezing upward. Oftentimes in our single leg bridge, our left hip will want to come up higher than the right side. Try and keep your hips squared towards the ceiling so they arrive at the exact same time. In your single leg bridge, let's hold at the top here. Keeping our hips raised, gently tap your left toe down towards the mat. Return your left leg back to a 90-degree angle. So we're moving from our left leg, but we're keeping tension into our right glute while just in a hold. This is similar to your toe tap, but we're in our bridge position. You can also find a pulse with that left knee above the hip, pulsing up and down towards the ceiling. Plant your left foot down to the ground, lower the tailbone downward nice and slow. Keep your feet in a parallel position. Find an articulation this time into your bridge. Tuck the tailbone under, peel your spine off of the mat. Rise to the edge of your shoulder blades, squeeze your glutes close to rib cage. Shifting your body weight slightly over towards that left side, raise the right leg into a 90-degree angle tabletop. This time our right leg extends all the way up towards the ceiling, nice and high. Returning into our single leg bridge, we lower our hips all the way down, nice and even. Reaching your right toe to the ceiling, lift the hips, exhale. So this is also our single leg bridge, but now we have our right leg extended up instead of that 90-degree angle. That offers a little bit more pressure throughout the spine, and this allows for a different variation. Finding your bridge, let's hold at the top, right leg is lengthened. This is a single leg lower lift. Flex your right toe back, lower the right leg downward to a 45-degree angle. Point the right toe, lift towards the ceiling, flex, lower, point, lift, hold that right leg high, adding in your pulses, up and down an inch. Bend the right knee, plant the right foot down, and lower the tailbone, inhale. So those are different ways that you can take your bridging. My boots are on fire just from that small amount.